Today, we are talking about the impact of toxic workplaces on mental health and employee well being. This is a heavy topic. So I don't want to trigger anyone, but we're going to get into it because I know that this can be, some people can have traumatic experiences thinking about how their mental health and well being was impacted and deteriorated in the workplace. And just saying that just kind of almost breaks my heart because I am an advocate of people and their well being. And the thing that bothers me the most in the work that we do is when I have to listen to stories from employees who have thought they found the ideal company. They get an opportunity to do work that they are passionate about and that they're skilled at, but they work in a culture or they work for a leader who is toxic, who every day comes in and it feels like their goal is to break people down. But today, our conversation about the impact of toxic workplaces on mental health and well being, I hope it resonates with all of you. No matter if you're a leader striving to create a healthy work environment or you're on a team navigating the challenges of the modern workplace, we know that work related stress and toxicity in workplaces are related, but distinct concepts. And so I'm going to break those down as well. Like, what's the difference between work related stress and a toxic environment? Because they are different. And I definitely don't want people to think, oh, because we're having work related stress, that I should label this a toxic culture, because that's not necessarily the truth. And we want to be true in this work, and we want to be accurate in the words that we use, because I believe that a lot of things are caught up in language. So, work related stress. Work related stress refers to the physical, emotional, and psychological strains that employees may experience because of their job duties, workload, or work related factors. For example, I came out of public accounting. There were many times throughout the year that we called busy season, when we were completely focused on client deliverables. We had deadlines that were often regulated by the government, right? So we had things that we had to get done by a certain time, and documents had to be filed or reported. So no matter if you were a tax professional or an auditor or any other place within the organization. So we call that busy season. And that created work related stress. Right? We had deadlines we had to meet, we had clients we had to satisfy, and a lot of times you were not permitted to take vacation. So, there were 8, 9, 12 weeks that you were completely focused on the work. So work related stress, those are the physical demands and they come with it. And the nature of that is that, stress is common and it's often a normal response to the demands of the job. And it might also be cyclical, right? There's certain times of the year where work related stress is a lot heavier or more demanding on us emotionally. Now, it can occur in any workplace, and it's not necessarily an indication of work related environment. So at any workplace, I worked in retail when I was in college and after college, kind of working my full-time job in my career, but also working at the mall at nights because I was young and had a lot of energy and not too many demands on my life. But during the holiday season, it was all hands on deck and it was stressful, even as a part time employee, because the store was filled with more people, which created more stress. So that's work related stress. Now, versus a toxic work environment. A toxic work environment is characterized by persistent, harmful behavior, practices, or cultural norms within a workplace that undermine employees' mental health or well being, psychological safety, and overall job satisfaction. Right, so this is something that's persistent. It shows up in what some people term as microaggressions in our language. And I don't believe in microaggressions because people know what they're doing, they know what they're saying. So they are really just verbal aggressive assaults that undermine your capacity to do your work and to show up. They're constant interruptions, it's belittling, it's micromanagement of the work because there's a lack of trust and leadership. There's over management of people's behaviors, what they do, when they do it, gossip in the workplace. The list goes on and on. Things that should not be happening in workplaces where adults reside is toxic work environment. So all of those things that I listed. And the nature of that is this toxicity in the workplace is a systematic issue that extends beyond individual stressors. It reflects negative patterns of behavior, communication and communication style, management that can permeate the workplace culture. And oftentimes, toxic behaviors are rewarded by people being allowed to stay in companies. They get their bonuses, they get promoted, and it just turns into these factors of bullying, harassment, discrimination, micromanagement, the lack of accountability, favoritism, poor leadership, and just complete disregard for employee well-being. And this can happen in any work culture, any environment. It is not just at a law firm or a public accounting firm. It's not just in manufacturing or retail. It's at all of those places. And oftentimes people know because they hear about it. So that's the difference between the two. And so when we think about work-related stress, it's a natural response to the job demands and can occur in almost any workplace. It's generally manageable with stress reduction strategies, right? So making sure people take their vacation. We do some sort of at the end of busy season celebration where we thank our employees, we do an outing, or even within that busy season time where stress is a little bit higher for everyone, we might take periodic breaks. I know one of the things we used to do when I was at Deloitte, we would have like a dessert break. And it actually helped. One, we got a little sugar, but we also got to come together, not talk about work, laugh for about 30 minutes to an hour, and then get back to work. But on the other hand, toxic work environments, they represent deeply ingrained culture of harmful behaviors and practices that can have a severe and lasting impact and affect our employees' well-being and overall functioning on the organization, which, we have to address this toxicity in a comprehensive way. Because what we're seeing is a high number. I talk to HR professionals. A lot of them are my friends. I spend social time with them, and inevitably it comes up the number of employees who are coming to their HR leaders and business managers talking about the need to take a mental health break. And it's not how I used to use the term like, oh, I need a mental health break. I'm going on vacation because I've been working so hard. It's, I need a mental health break because I feel like I'm being personally sought out and attacked and impacted by harmful behavior in the workplace. And they're getting support from their therapist. Written documentation that says that this person is being impacted in this way. They cannot sleep. They are experiencing hair loss, acne, abdominal stomach issues, Crohn's disease. Like you probably wouldn't be, but I have been surprised by the number of physical health ailments that I hear from employees because of not just regular workplace stress, because of trauma. And what comes out of that trauma for a lot of people is post-traumatic stress, right? They can't sleep. They're having nightmares. They have high levels of anxiety in the workplace. And that's what's impacting their well-being. So we need to make sure that it's not just that I'm not having a fun experience at work. I'm having a traumatic experience in this workplace. So workplace well-being is beneficial for everyone. It's both beneficial for the individual employee, but it's also for the overall organization and even all of the smaller teams within that organization. Because think about it, when everybody is doing well, and they love coming to work. And yes, I'm using the word love. When they love coming to work, you have better job satisfaction, more creativity and innovative ideas are produced. Companies are more profitable. You have high productivity and capacity. People are actually looking for and seeking out additional work and ways to get involved and build relationships within their organization. You have higher and improved employee retention, reduced absenteeism, and just an overall positive company reputation, right? You become an employer of choice, a place where people want to be, and not just for being on the list of these companies, right? These magazines and getting awards. People truly want to be there and they want to work there. And so you can go to apps like Glassdoor or Fishbowl and you won't see stories about how horrible it is to work there. So when we think about, workplace well-being, there are some key components that we need to be aware of. And so I want you to think about this list and even write some of these things down and evaluate your organization. Do you have and provide these key components to ensure that your workplace is one that is focused on employee well-being. The first one, are you concerned about your employees' physical well-being? And these are the aspect that it addresses employees' physical health, their safety, and their comfort at work. For example, is your building mold-free? Do you have chairs that are comfortable? Are their workplaces clean and comfortable, very well lit, right? It's these things that definitely impact an employee, having the right workstations, access to water. I know one of the things that I loved about working at Deloitte is the things that I could find in the break room that were good for me, right? That helped me. I didn't have to worry about bringing my own water. Clean water was provided. And now companies do so much more to make sure the physical and maybe even social well-being is positively impacted. So we got physical well-being, our social well-being, right? We create small groups, employee resource groups, where people who are similar or who even want to learn more about one another can gather together. Social well-being may also include having lounges that are comfortable, games that are available. I've even now seen mental health rooms where they have dark rooms and light and quiet music. You see how my voice has changed a little. They have these dark rooms and where you can go and take a nap, or you can just close your eyes, or you can, decompress. Being able to have a building that's, some place where people can get out and walk. Those things are important. Another component of having a workplace that's focused on well-being is having mental and emotional well-being programming. So like components that emphasize the importance of mental health, right? You might even, instead of just having regular PTO, you might have, well-being days where people get an opportunity to take the day off and do something that's solely focused on their well-being. And they define what that is, because for some people, it might be getting a massage. Some people, it might be just sleeping in and being able to sleep all day, or going for a hike and getting out with nature. These things are help with emotional resilience, psychological safety in the workplace. They create this environment where employees feel supported, free from excessive stress. Another way to do like mental or emotional well-being is a sabbatical. Oftentimes, companies wait until employees have worked there 15 years or 20 years and they get a 30-day sabbatical, or they get a big promotion like to partner or some chief or senior executive role, and they get an opportunity to take a sabbatical. I think that's a little too late, personally. I wish we could do some sort of mini sabbaticals or sabbaticals, within 5 years of working for a company. And you get one every 5 years. I think, one, it'll show greater commitment of the organization to the person's well-being. It will also allow them to come back and feel a lot fresher with their work. Focusing on career development. When employees feel as if their employer is making an effort to prepare them for career advancement and ensure that they have job satisfaction, they contribute to the overall aspect of the employee's well-being. Providing leadership and career development, one that's experiential, where they get to immerse themselves, they participate in a cohort, they may receive a coach. Those are other ways that employees feel a sense of investment. The company is making an investment in them, and maybe even offering career development or life development classes that have nothing to do with their job, not technical related. I have a friend who is at Google, and one of the things that they did is they had a cooking class. Right? They brought people in, a chef in, and for a few hours, a half a day, they prepared a meal, and there was a cooking course, and they got to do this with their employees. They were able to sign up for it. They were not penalized for being away from their desk and being away from work. They did it in a cool space, and then they got to spend that time after they cooked that meal together, just talking and eating with one another. Right? That's another way to build that development and the loyalty. Financial well-being. You would be surprised the number of people who need financial support at work. And some of it is just financial literacy. I had a client that was a law firm in New York, and we surveyed their employees on some of the things that they would love for their employees to be able to support them in. And one was financial literacy. We had a complete generation of employees coming into the workplace. Some of them had parents who were high income earners, so they never really had to manage money before. And so they recognized that some of them had student loan debt. They were becoming parents. They felt overwhelmed with finances, and their employer they told their employer, hey, we want some help. And so providing them not only with just fair compensation, but financial planning resources, not just the benefits, but resources where you bring someone in and we can talk about budgeting. We can talk about saving, not necessarily pushing or selling products, but you're giving me resources that I can, I'm here 8 to 10 hours a day. So you help me with that. Promoting health, right? Bringing in medical professionals to help with, wellness programs, health screenings, access to healthcare services. I'm talking about, food and diet and exercise. That's another way to create well-being in the workplace. Cultural and organizational alignment, right? People can align their values around their community and service and even individually and it's a cultural fit and alignment with this company. And then finally, community and social responsibility. Employees who work for companies that are engaged in serving their communities and even serving both the immediate community where the company is, but also other causes that are important to them, have a higher sense of mental health and well-being among their employees. They are not just doing the head work of providing technical work to you and your clients, but they get a chance to serve together. Again, when I was at Deloitte and even at other companies that I was with, we used to do a community impact day. It was something that I really loved about working in Atlanta. In January, during the Martin Luther King weekend, all companies, so many companies it was a day of service. And it was such a great opportunity, one, to be able to give back to the community collectively with people I spent the most time with, my employees and coworkers and colleagues. But we got to do projects that were meaningful to us in areas that meant a lot to us, that we thought we could make an immediate impact. And also where we thought it was important for people to see young professionals out in the community taking time away from work. And so those are some of those components. And I'll go through this list again really quickly. So some key components of workplace well-being should include physical well-being, social well-being, mental and emotional well-being, work-life balance, and I will say balance and adjustment because it's going to change. It's going to be cyclical. Career development, financial well-being, promoting health and wellness, cultural and organizational alignment, leadership management, and community and social responsibility. So when you look at your organization, check and see if they have these 10 things. Do they make these 10 things available for you? Are you making them available for your employees? And are you encouraging your teams and the people who report to you, if you're a people leader, to be involved in them and participate with them? And walk around and check. In your staff meetings, ask people, how much training have you done this year that's training that is important to you? Are you involved in some of our leadership programs? Are you taking time off to focus on your well-being? Those things are really, really important. So toxic workplaces can have a profound and detrimental impact on employees' mental health and overall well-being. And I'm going to keep saying that. And we know that is true because toxicity is a virus. It is a virus that I am on a mission to getting rid of. And so how do we identify when the workplace is toxic and how it's having an impact on the employee's well-being? The first thing you're going to recognize is increased stress and anxiety. Are people on edge, right? Constant stress and uncertainty at work, right? When you feel like you're working for a leader who is not clear about their expectations, who is not transparent about the direction that the company is going in, when you find out people are being laid off, but there's no explanation around it, constant fear of being criticized, constant conflict, and not healthy conflict, because healthy conflict is important. And we're going to talk about that in an upcoming episode of the Untoxic Boss. But, just conflict for no reason, right? Conflict that's not producing anything that's meaningful or new ideas, and just overall mistreatment. I was reading the article about an interview that Rosalind Brewer, who has recently stepped down after 3 years with Walgreens. And one of the things that she talked about, and a lot of women, and particularly women of color, and even more specifically, Black women in leadership, complain about is isolation. Their experience with feeling isolated at work, their experience in being stressed and having anxiety because they believe that systematically that they cannot even make mistakes at work, right? They don't have room to learn from a mistake because they're not permitted to or allowed to make a mistake. And I hear this a lot when we're coaching women, and even when I have an opportunity to coach Black women in leadership, and they're at the senior levels in their organizations, and they talk about not being able to open up and the stress and the anxiety that puts on them. Right? They don't feel safe. They feel isolated. They don't believe that they have an opportunity to even make a mistake, and they have to constantly prove and reprove and demonstrate and show evidence of their competency. And that creates increased stress and anxiety, because I don't think people really understand the pressure that increased stress and anxiety brings when you are the only. And the only also not just means you're the first. You're the only right now. You're the most senior person in the finance group, the most senior leader and woman leader in the IT space. You're the only Black person in your company, in the office you work in Idaho. You're that person. You're the only Hispanic and Latina. You're the only person that identifies as queer or transgender, any of these onlys, right? In your organization. And it causes you to cover and to hide your true identity. And you feel like you have to assimilate. And assimilation is painful, because to assimilate into another culture means you have to deny your own culture. And so this increased stress and anxiety is something that actually can kill you. People have had heart attacks. They've had aneurysms. The amount of stress that this has on you is detrimental to your health and well-being. And we do not want that, right? It's a negative impact on mental health. And things that occur for people at work is depression, anxiety again, and not just I feel anxious about the future. I am anxious now because I don't know what landmines I'm going to step on. We have post-traumatic stress disorder because of persistent stressors and negative experiences at work. And then burnout. Burnout can occur because of just regular work-related stress, right? We've been working too many hours. We've been grinding, hustling for that next promotion, trying to demonstrate our readiness. That's a form of burnout. But toxic work cultures can contribute to burnout, characterized by emotional exhaustion, depression, reduced sense of personal accomplishment or achievement. Burnout can result in physical and mental health issues as well. And we see it, right? People don't want to get out of bed which is a form of depression. They don't want to get on the call. They want to be in Zoom. They don't want to participate in meetings, in team events, or maybe even after work social events, because they're burnt out and they're tired of being with you. Low morale and motivation is another one. Constant exposure to toxic behaviors can erode an employee's morale and their motivation. If every time I talk to you, you have something negative to say about me and others, or maybe even the company, it's going to impact my morale, even if I don't share your thoughts or ideas or your position, right? If I have a completely different point of view, you'll eventually start to wear down my point of view if I have to interact with you regularly. And we see this in poor performance and increased turnover. I think, the bottom line to how this really impacts employees' mental health and well-being, it comes out in performance. People don't want to do what they have studied to do, what they've committed their time and their resources to learn, and they just don't want to go to work. And it impacts not only their work life, it starts to impact their personal life. And so when they come home, they have low engagement with their families and their friends, and they feel isolated, alienated, and they have this inhibition to do work. And a lot of this shows up even with high performers. Earlier this week, I was working with a young woman, and she's a senior leader in her organization, in her finance organization, and she has a huge responsibility. And she's proven herself that she's ready. Her company has complete trust in her ability. Even within a short period of time of her working there, she has given broader span of control in the finance organization, and she has significant influence, and she's excited about her role. And while we were talking, she was sharing with me some of the things that she does to make sure she's smart and ready, and some things that she started to share. And I asked her, I said, hey, when did you develop this point of view about how you have to show up as a leader and to demonstrate your readiness? And she paused for a moment and she started to think, and it came back to her very quickly. There was a moment where she worked with a leader, and because of her past experiences, being a 4.0 student in accounting, passing the CPA exam, working at a Big Four public accounting firm, her boss would tell her, oh, you don't need help. You're smart enough. You can figure this out, right? So she never felt as if she had a safe place to go because he would always remind her how smart she was. But he would sit in the cubicle next to hers and talk to her colleagues and ask, hey, how can I help you? What do you need? Do you need some work? Even spend social time with them, joking and talking. Now, you might not initially label that as toxic, but that is a toxic leader, right? For someone to tell you that you're smart enough and you don't need my support, my mentoring, my development, and I am your manager, right? You hired me because I was qualified, but then you turn on me and you use it against me and choose not to develop me. So then felt like she's had to prove herself over and over again that I am smart enough. I'm worthy to be here because I'm smart. So I'm working harder, longer, constantly trying to figure out things on my own, no one to collaborate with me. That impacted her well-being. It created a post-traumatic response in every role she's had since then, even though she is smart enough to do it. And she is just now at a place where, one, she's recognized the impact it has had on her, both professionally and personally, and in her point of view and even on how she's led other people, right? She might be overcompensating and how she helps develop others that she hires because of what she didn't get younger in her career that she really needed, and she feels like she's missed out on. And so it's those sorts of things that happen in organizations that cause people to be burned out, stressed out, and leave your organization. I just want you to consider that. One, I want you to think about, how did you become the person that you are at work? And I don't want that to create undue stress or trauma for you to revisit that. But I want you to think about how that's showing up for you. And then I also want you to make sure that you're not living from a past traumatic experience from a toxic boss. And then I also want you to just do wellness checks on yourself and on people that you work with and people on your teams. Make it a regular conversation in your staff meetings, either in person or virtually, to do a round robin of, how are you doing? Are you getting what you need? Do you have an experience here? Are you getting the physical, the social, the mental, all the things that I listed earlier? Are you getting enough of that so that you can produce your best work? Thank you so much for joining me today on The Untoxic Boss, where we are focused on helping you become a leader worth following. We want to introduce you a resource that we know that will impact your life and your career. It's a book, Unstuck and Unstoppable. It is the ultimate guide to overcoming obstacles and achieving your goals. With practical tips and inspiring stories, the book will help you leverage your value, increase your visibility, and gain recognition to accelerate your career. Take action towards getting the career that you deserve. This book was named Best Career Book of 2022. Get your copy anywhere you buy books, either on Amazon or at our website at unstuckandunstoppablebook.com. Thank you for joining the Untoxic Boss podcast today. We are here and on a mission to help people stop being a jerk at work. We'll see you here again next week.